drawing you out of the cave. Kick and scream all you want, but you've been in there way too long. Chained up, staring at the shadows on the wall thinking they're real, but I just can't let you accept that anymore. This podcast is about enlightening you to new perspectives while reimagining what society can be if given a fresh start. All I can do is show you new perspectives. It's your job to analyze and adopt or discard them. I urge you not to go back into the cave, where it's safe, and the shadows are familiar, but instead step out with me, because I'm here to show you what more there is to this magnificent world. In this episode, Kenny Wiess is going to release us from our chains and talk to us about what a part of our society's education system might look like. This is a pretty intense discussion, so if you're one of those people that gets, as the PC folks say, triggered easily, I'd maybe skip this one. It could be exactly what you need right now. This conversation, kind of like the last one, got a bit off topic. I'm still figuring out how to structure the show and how to properly guide people through the conversation and then consistently loop the conversation back into how to create a new society. Anyhow, Kenny is a life coach, speaker, author, and host of the Journey to Success podcast. And really, he's just a remarkable human being all around with a phenomenal story. This book, The Journey to Success, has helped me out a bunch in my life, and I'm telling you, this guy has a lot of wisdom to share. Before I jump into it, Kenny, I'd like to mention how I would really appreciate it if you could support me on Patreon. Even just $1 would be amazing. I'm planning to use the money to increase the quality of the shows and to hire on a few more people to make producing them easier on me. The money will allow me to potentially release more than one episode per week, and if you support me on Patreon, you'll get some badass bonus content, like me doing street epistemology, which is where I go out and talk with people on the street or in coffee shops, or maybe just like I do normally, have them over to my place, and we just discuss their beliefs and why they have them and the root of them and how they came to believe them. Once I get sponsors, you'll have access to sponsorless episodes through Patreon as another bonus, as well as other cool stuff I come up with as I grow the show. So go check it out at patreon.com/outofthecave. There'll be a link in the show notes and or the description. Last thing is that if you don't feel like donating money, I'd love you just as much, if not more, if you could go and share this podcast with one friend you think might really enjoy it, or you could just leave a comment and or review. I also love feedback. It's how I improve. It's how I make the show better. I really care about just making this a phenomenal experience for my listeners. Reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram at jptaxman24, or just leave your feedback in the review. That's also fine. And now it's about time for us to release the shackles from our wrists again as we take our second step out of the cave with Kenny Wiess. I'm looking to frame this in a sense of how do we create an ideal society? Okay. And by ideal, I don't necessarily mean perfect. I just mean better than what we have now, okay. Right? And there were, some problems and challenges, and we're going to kind of work through those, and how to look after those. And what I think we're going to talk about today is parenting and parental education, and how I think that's really, from how I see building a society like this, that's the core facet that can completely change the entire society, and could change any society, but where you should start from, I think, if you're starting from scratch and building a whole new one. Yeah. So before we kind of get into that, though, let's hear a little bit about you and who you are, what you're doing. Yeah. And I always say, tell us your story and start from birth. But don't give us the whole story, because we don't have time for that. So maybe just little snippets from maybe each decade up to now.
Well, Kenny Wiess, I'm a life coach, speaker, author, and have my own podcast as well. Let's see, life stories. 0 to 10, very few memories of childhood, in part because childhood was traumatic. I mean, my parents were 16, 18 when they were married, 4 kids by 21 and 23.
Wow.
So it was insane. 4 kids within 5 years, 3 boys and a girl, all athletes.
Yeah.
dad trying in school, but also then starting his own career, and mom just a child, So 0 to 10, I mean, I have some great memories of early childhood, Christmas being magic.
Mm-hmm.
The way my parents would do it is nothing in the house. We'd go to bed Christmas Eve. They and the grandparents would stay up all night, bring the tree out, decorate the whole house. And it was Norman Rockwell, especially with 4 kids. We'd wake up and literally they'd just put their head on the pillow 4:30 in the morning. We're up at 5, walk out, magic.
Wow.
Trains running through the tree, I mean, they did a great job.
Experience that.
Yeah, it was magic, pure magic. What they did, they weren't. We don't teach anything about parenting.
Yeah.
So, my mom was an alcoholic. My dad was a rageaholic.
Mm.
He was beat to death as a kid, and so he didn't hit us, but he was just filled with it.
Yeah, just kind of really angry.
He was just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So he didn't know how to connect.
Uh-huh.
It's not so much that he yelled and screamed at us, but you could feel his anger and frustration. It was always there, so you're always on tiptoes, trying to keep it from coming out. And it would mostly get expressed in exasperation. Okay, what now?
I went through my child was a little similar.
Yeah,
that's a great guy. I love him to death. But I would be frustrated about everything. I think I've looked at it, examined myself. I think that's why I'm really passionate about user experience design and designing companies, because I just want, in a sense, to fix his anger. Right? I want him to not be angry, so I'm make everything flawless so he doesn't get pissed. Right?
Very common.
And now that's how I want it. I want everything to be pretty much flawless.
The critical part of childhood that I remember the most is I can't remember exactly, but I was 10 or 12 years old, and I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. And you have to realize in our house, any noise, literally, I learned I could, if I wanted to be a burglar, I would have been excellent. Because any noise, and my dad, wake him up because he was so stressed out. So the going to the bathroom process could take 2 to 5 minutes, because I'd walk so slowly, and then to slowly turn the door handle and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I get into the bathroom, and I flip the light on, and my mom's passed out naked on the toilet. She's an alcoholic. And I'll never forget that I can still feel from my feet this electricity. And I liken it to Star Trek, when they beam out. That's what it felt like, pulsing, starting from my feet and moving up through my body and screaming, I'm dying. I knew that the kid that walked in that door was leaving me, and there was nothing I could do about it. That my life was over, and then I don't have much memory, and until later with my dad later that morning. But that kicked everything off, really, that discovery.
An experience like that, and knowing that that's kind of your loss of innocence, in a sense, would you call it?
It's the best way I can describe it is to die.
Yeah. Wow.
That's really what it felt like, because I'm gone. Who am I going to become now?
Yeah.
And as I see now where I am, that's what happens to all of us. We create false personas because of things like that. And here's one thing I want to make clear. I run into this all the time. People go, well, I haven't suffered trauma as a child. No, my childhood was great. I can't identify. And people try and grade trauma. And they try and look at a situation like that. Like, I've had people come up to me, I've never had that moment like that. And what you have to realize is, even your parents showing up late to events, sarcasm, dismissiveness, that exasperation, that's trauma. And if the worst thing you ever heard was a couple times a year, oh God, what now? Let's say that's the worst thing. Well, for you, that's just as devastating as my finding my mom. That's your worst day. And people, that's part of what keeps us stuck, is we minimize that and go, well, we compare it to, the really horrific stuff, abuse and things like that. And that's part of what keeps us stuck, because we don't recognize how impactful that is. And so I had plenty of, smaller moments that affected me as well. But because we don't teach any skills around this, I mean, my life became a train wreck.
Yeah.
Alcoholism, sex addiction, spending addiction, love addiction, tobacco, sugar, divorces, bankruptcy. I played 2 pro sports I never wanted to play. I thought they were my passion.
Yeah.
And I realize now, listen to athletes talk.
Yeah.
When they describe why they love it, they're going to describe an emotion they went through as a kid that they're trying to overcome. They don't realize that almost every athlete doesn't like the sport.
Really?
Yeah. All they're doing is just like me. They're trying to reconcile something.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of that drive comes, which is really cool and awesome for all of us to watch. And we love it.
Yeah.
But
when you work through the process that I teach and talk about, you'll discover some of your choices worked for you and some worked against you. Unfortunately, since we don't teach about this stuff, almost all of our choices we're using to work against us. We just don't know it. And that's what I discovered. Both hockey and golf, I was abusing myself. And I thought they were my passions.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how all this worked. Once I figured it out, I went, oh my God, no wonder. And I find that with every people, if you don't know what your career path is and you're frustrated in it, that's why. You haven't reconciled. And so you're reliving that abuse on yourself. And nobody's, one, even mentioned it to show you how to figure it out. And
with sports, it's kind of too, like, you literally are abusing, like, you're pushing yourself to insane levels of effort and pain.
Yeah.
Because you're, like, kind of punishing yourself. You're like, I know I used to do it. Like, I was a Division I track athlete. Yeah. And, I mean, in high school, like, one of the reasons I liked doing athletics was that's a place I could go feel pain, that I was at least feeling the physical pain, right? And I could train it, and it was like a healthy way to do it, And
well, you don't have to answer this. But consider this: what were you running from? You don't have to answer. But a track athlete, look through your life and go, what were you running from? That's why you love to run. You're running from something. That's what. I mean, I'll use me. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I don't mind putting on the spot. I'm just trying to identify exactly what I might have been running from.
Yeah. Think of anyway. But here's what I learned. Like I was a goalie playing hockey, a goaltender, and I realized why I chose it. It's so funny. I even have a newspaper article from 30-some years ago with my older brother and I. When my older brother used to beat the heck out of me. The anger my dad dumped into him, he dumped into me. And he and I fought for power, my older brother and I, for supremacy, to try and get my dad's attention. Well, he was huge. He just literally, with the one hand, hold me, throw me around. Well, we'd play street hockey and he'd say, get in the net. Well, I couldn't say no. He'd beat me up till I do. I did. Well, I realized real quick, if I stopped him, it'd piss him off. Yeah. It was the only way I could beat him up. Yeah. Well, think of the symbolism of that. I then chose to stand in front of a hard rubber disc going 100 miles an hour, beating me up. Not much different than how my brother treated me. See, the difference is, and this is why we do it, athletes, whatever. It happened to us. So now we choose it because now I have power over it. I was powerless against my brother. Well, now that I chose it, I'm in power. Yeah, I'm in power of my own self-victimization. That's why I love it. So that was one reason I chose it. Yeah. The other reason I chose it was I've always had an ability to feel what's going on in people, and my ability to feel has always been through the roof. Well, whenever I opened my mouth as a kid, because no one else felt that way, they'd shut me down. Well, think of the 2 sports I played. I was a goalie in golf, completely isolated, no one to talk to. Right? Goalies are weird, just like kickers in football. Just like my childhood. Yeah, you're crazy.
Now you connect with the team. Like, you're just like, handle your job, make sure no one gets scores on us.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't even sit on the bench with the team. You're always isolated. So again, perfect positions for me. Yeah. I'm just reliving what I went through. Yeah. And the third reason I chose it is because my dad was so angry, and I was kind of his emotional anger support. Yeah. I could never say anything to him. And so I had to stuff his anger and mine. I could never defend myself. So I picked two sports.